Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. I want to share with you 3 things I learned about software engineering from my short-lived criminal career. I've even done a podcast or 2 where I've talked about it. And I don't want to glorify crime or the stuff I did in the past, because I think it was honestly one of the dumbest decisions I made. And when I think about it, it really took me 10 years off of my path towards where I am now. I look at people that are my age and I'm thinking, man, what if I had just started doing this earlier and not got involved in all this foolishness as a young man? I'd probably be really far ahead. Terrible habit, but I just want to make that as a disclaimer before I tell you about this stuff, because my worst fear is that I glorify this or make it sound like this was some sort of positive experience. It was not. But I do think there are some lessons in here. Hey, before I get into the salacious details of my criminal history and how it relates to software engineering and how I think it'll probably help you out, especially if you're a career changer, I want to let you know that this Friday is the deadline for the discount to Parsity. It's a major discount, $1,000 off. You get to work with me one-on-one. There are 4 spots available, which is crazy. I didn't expect this many people to take me up on the one-on-one stuff. Really cool that they're doing that. If you are hearing this, we still got some spots open, and I hope to see you in there. Back to the episode. 15 years ago, I made money by trading substances for cash. I was hooked on drugs, alcohol, essentially a loser. It took 3 near-death experiences, 2 children, and an intervention to finally change my ways. Fast forward to now, I'm a software engineering manager, just took a position as associate director of engineering at a big tech company. I put on a collared shirt this morning, led a team of developers in a discussion about moving our websites into an AWS architecture. Boring word salad of tech stuff, but I'm trying to tell you that I'm about as far away from that old life as you can imagine. It doesn't even seem real sometimes when I talk about it like now. It feels like, did that really ever happen? But, I have pictures and family and friends that remind me, oh yeah, it did happen, buddy. You were a terrible person. The transition from that criminal addict to a nerdy software engineer that talks on podcasts, it was tough. And there's a lot of lessons from my former life that have helped me navigate a career in tech, which might be applicable to you if you are switching careers. I don't care if you are a nerd and you're switching careers from being a security guard or a data analyst into software, or if you literally came out of prison. These same rules can apply. So being in that criminal lifestyle that I was in, I was hanging around lots of dangerous people. I had 3 guns pointed at my head between 2009 to like 2013. I talked my way out of a lot of situations that turned deadly for other people. And I had a career, quote unquote, in the streets that was actually somewhat successful. But part of that was knowing how to make split-second decisions and read people as if my life depended on it. Because in many ways it did. And here are some of the things I picked up hanging around killers and dope dealers that I can apply to my career in getting this crash course in human behavior. Lesson number 1, losers lose and winners win. This sounds harsh, but I think people look at software engineering or drug dealing or crime as like a get-rich-quick scheme. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to get rich by doing this easy thing. And if it was easy, trust me, everybody would do it. And maybe you think, oh, but that's crime. Like not everybody would do crime. And if I did, or it's an easy way to get rich because you're breaking the law, you're getting around the law, right? The movies show us the jewelry, the cars. What they don't show you though, is all the guys I met who were living with their grandma, their uncles, their cousins in a 1-bedroom apartment somewhere and had been hustling for like 10 years. I've maybe met 1 or 2 quote unquote rich criminals in real life. I've met a lot more guys that have nice cars that they can barely afford and are living with their mom or their grandma and can't afford to take a bus out of town, right? I remember one time even giving an associate an amount of product that he could pay me back for later. I fronted it to him. I said, here, you take this, pay me back later. I'm like, cool. 2 months go by, check in on him. He said, hey, I haven't moved anything yet. And I was shocked. I'm like, so you have no job. You hang out all day in a high traffic area. We were in Oakland, California at the time. And you still can't get rid of all this stuff? That kind of taught me something. Sellers sell, buyers buy, losers lose, and winners win. There's no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme. Doesn't matter if you're moving illegal drugs or writing code. In every game you play, there's going to be clear winners and losers. There are lawyers that barely get by, and there are lawyers that are driving around Ferraris. There are developers that are barely getting by, and developers driving around, not in Ferraris because developers are boring, Priuses and Teslas or whatever the cool thing is. They're wearing Allbirds and I don't know, they're going to Coachella or something like that. But in each of these games, there's these winners and losers. And I hate to say, but when I think about the people that get ahead, it's not any hack or trick. It's who worked really, really hard, who is sweating and grinding it out and trying to really find what was the piece of leverage they had, whether that was job hopping, going to different companies, learning a new technology, taking it upon themselves to be, I'm going to be in that winner's circle. I don't consider myself a really, really good developer. I consider myself a little bit better than average. And I had a strategy that helped me accumulate a lot of opportunities over the years, being on LinkedIn, writing a lot, doing podcasts like this. Basically, I was like, I'm going to force my way to winning. Other people that went to, Stanford or got a CS degree, they had it, quote unquote, easier. They just put in that upfront work. I was putting in all that work at a later stage, so I knew I had to work harder. Same thing can be applied to any criminal endeavor where people think, I'm just going to kind of sit back and let it happen to me. That is not how life works at all. There's even a principle called the Pareto principle that states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. So whether in software or criminal endeavors, that means that the top 20% of people are probably going to take up 80% of the opportunities out there. You want to work your hardest to be in that top 20%, but not in the criminal part, like in the nerdy part. This next lesson was a really, really interesting one to learn, and many people might not agree with it. Fake it till you are it. So I was a good kid for most of my life. I did well in school. I went to college. I got bullied as a kid. I wasn't like what you would consider a tough kid at all. I liked classical music and reading fantasy books and, nerd stuff. And so how did I fit in with criminals later in my life and do large transactions with dangerous people? And basically I faked it until one day I just wasn't faking it anymore. I remember meeting a man named Murder and taking a car ride with him in these housing projects in Richmond, California, and another guy named Bird. He vouched for me and he kind of got me in the circle of people that I was doing business with. I had a lot of associates throughout Richmond, California and Oakland, California. They were pretty tough people. These guys had done, well over decades in the penitentiary, and they were well known throughout the city for, probably a lot of reasons you can guess from their names, right? So how did I get along with these kind of people? How did I ingratiate myself to them? After years of being around guys like that, I looked at how they talked, how they moved, the beer they drank at the bar, the cars they drove, the way they talked about women or men or whoever. And I'd pick up these things and I would emulate them a little bit, just enough. I knew that nobody would take me seriously as like a tough guy, but I knew that I had to adopt and understand some of the mannerisms and the culture that I was working within. And my transformation, I realized, was complete because one day I was trying to change my life. I asked a buddy if he could get me an interview for a job where he worked, and I got an interview over the phone. They turned me down. It was like for a very low-paying administrative assistant position, and I was shocked. And when I asked him, I said, hey, man, did you get any feedback about why they didn't go forward with me? And he said, yeah, they said you sounded too street. And I was shocked. I was like embarrassed, but at the same time, I kind of knew that's what I'd been trying to emulate and become. And now I had gotten so far into this character that I was no longer playing a character. That's just who I was. And I firmly believe that people are malleable. They're able to change shape throughout their life. You get around a certain group of people or you go into a certain environment, you're going to adapt to that environment. Same thing with learning how to be a software developer. I use the fake it till you are it method as a developer. I went to the companies and I saw what the smarter developers are doing. On my team, I'd ask them like, hey, what are you reading? What do you do outside of work? Oh, they all go rock climbing. They all like boba. Developers have their own special culture. They like board games. They've played Dungeons and Dragons. I played Dungeons and Dragons and pretended to like it. And it gave me something to talk about with my coworkers. And eventually, though, I learned to like some of these things. I'm like, you know what? I kind of do like rock climbing. You know what? I do actually enjoy boba. Oh, someone made a joke about a famous algorithm. I'm going to go look up what that algorithm does so I can take part in the joke. I remember at one company, a developer kept using the word orthogonal. And I thought, what the hell does that mean? I looked it up. I began using the word put it into my vocabulary. And now look at me. I'm an influencer on LinkedIn making jokes about TypeScript and JavaScript, and I'm not faking it anymore. That's just who I am, for better or for worse. Remember, your personality can change. You're not like inherently born with some characteristics that you just can't change about yourself, like your sense of humor, the way you talk, your vocabulary, your speech mannerisms. These are all things that can change if you want them to. But I just noticed that that was going to help me make this transition. Last lesson is that chances make champions. Pretty sure I heard a pimp say that back in the days, and he wasn't wrong. Playing it safe as a developer or as a criminal might be the most dangerous thing you can do. As a developer, playing it safe means you're maybe taking on tasks that you're sure you can complete. You stay silent during a meeting, and you're loyal to a big, stable company because if you're just a good little developer, they give you all the money and promotions you want. And then the market shifts and you realize you're back on the job hunt, and now you don't have really any experience because you're essentially a junior developer with 7 years of experience, which is something I've spoken about on this show in the past. I saw the same phenomenon of playing it quote unquote safe in my former life as well. There were some guys that I met that never wanted to meet new customers. They never wanted to take a chance on a new supplier. I remember one night I hit it off with this guy, well-known gang member from Richmond, and we were hanging out in the bar at night, me and him, getting drunk. Next morning, he says, "Hey, I got an offer for you." An offer I couldn't refuse. It was such a good price for this product that I wanted to get. And I met him at a gas station with a friend of mine because I never wanted to go alone to make sure things were, all good, right? And he says, "Hey, give me the money. I'll come right back." And I thought, man, if I give him this money and he doesn't come back, I'm kind of screwed. It's going to suck. I'm not going to be able to party for a couple of days. But if I do give him this, if he does come back, oh my God, I've just met like the best plug I could ever get. He came back. People said, "Oh, you're crazy. Why would you let him get the money?" My buddy said, "Man, you're never going to see that money again." He came back. I ended up making a killing with him for years and went to his wedding. I hope he's doing well, even though I know he was in a lifestyle that I, wouldn't agree with now, but he was a nice guy overall. And, that's the thing. People are complicated. I met a lot of nice people too that are just caught up in a lifestyle that is negative, unfortunately. But anyway, that taking a chance that day, it really helped me out in that type of lifestyle. And I met so many dudes out there that were like, "I'll never meet anybody new." And then next thing you know, their connect would get busted, or they'd get busted or lose something. Then be back at square zero all over again. And that was never where I wanted to end up. I knew that taking some chances were important in order for me to succeed in that lifestyle that I had chosen to go down. And I'm not saying to take just crazy risks all the time or just job hop all over the place or just spin the wheel every chance you get. But you do need to take some risk within your career, I think, in order to make it. I job hopped around after a couple stable companies where I felt I could have really grown in my career. I did that because I knew there was probably more opportunity and better longevity in my tech career from moving around companies in the beginning. Not only to learn more advanced technology and learn more cutting edge stuff, but also because of the money that would come from jumping around. I knew that comfortability was going to be the enemy of progress at that beginning stage because I looked at what other developers were doing. I'm like, okay, these people are moving on every couple years. They are surpassing me as far as income is concerned. I want to get that too. So it's a move I made strategically and one that I still use to this day. If I feel myself getting way too comfortable, I'm thinking I might need to consider whether I need to move again. In conclusion, and as a final warning, I want to make this really, really clear. My old life was a waste of time. It was depressing. It nearly destroyed me and my family. Did it teach me some valuable lessons? Yes. Could I have just as easily learned these without risking my freedom and my sanity? Yes. Exploring legal things like doing sales, entrepreneurship, working for a startup, these could have taught me the exact same lessons without having a gun pressed against my head in a dark hallway. I'd be a lot less paranoid too. The reason my story is sensational is because it's unlikely. I beat the odds. I'm here in spite of all those stupid things I've done, and I'm 10 years behind a lot of my peers. And I regret that a lot of times, and I pray my kids don't fall into that stupid trap that I got into, and I pray you don't either. But I also think that you need to apply some of these things to your own life and how you can use them as a software developer in your career. Anyways, as usual, I hope that's helpful. I hope I didn't scare you off or make you think, geez, this guy's still some sort of bandicoot. No, not at all. Check me out. Check out my LinkedIn. Connect with me there. And if you want to chat with me, I'm always open to talk about whatever. See you around. That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. To learn more about becoming a software engineer with us, then check out Varsity.io. If you're not quite ready for that, then jump into our Dev30.xyz program, which is 30 days of working on your mindset, habits, and JavaScript skills. Totally worth it. See you next week.